A watermelon, a fish, and the Bible. What is there in common between the three of them?
Well, the reason I chose the title for the English novel was because as invading force coming to Cyprus, there's an old man and an old lady, and they start running from their house. And the old lady doesn't want to leave because she's afraid that she'll leave and she'll never go back. And the old man is holding his prized watermelon underneath his arm. And he says to her, "Come on, Maria, πρέπει να φύγουμε, we have to go." And she says, I can't go, this is my home. And she runs back into her house and she grabs the first three things that she sees. And it happens to be a fish that she was preparing for lunch that day, and a Bible that was on the counter. And she runs outside and she says, from all the land that my grandfather had and from all the work that we've done in our life, all we have to show for it is a watermelon, a fish and a Bible. And it's symbolic of, they're symbolic things, they're the things that we hold on to at the end, the things that stay behind and stay with us when we lose everything.
It is a little comic the way that you describe it, that they grab a watermelon, a fish and the Bible. But in fact, the whole story, the whole novel evolves around the most tragic page of Cypriot history.
Yes.
How difficult was it to work with it? Because I know you also have a personal story in your family from the invasion in Cyprus, from the Turkish invasion.
Yeah, my parents were both refugees of the invasion. My dad was from Varosi and my mum was from a very small village called Labathos in Amogosto. And obviously they left everything that they had and they went to London in order to start a new life. And their motive, their objective was to start a new life, you know, to give us something as well. And I think that pain that they had and the trauma that they suffered somehow got brushed under the carpet and it came out in different ways and I could feel it was there. And I think it was a pain that existed throughout my life. I could really feel it.
Are there any biographic elements in your novel?
Well, the story actually started off as a story about my grandmother's life because my grandmother lived in Cyprus, in Labathos, and my grandfather left her with 4 children. So when I was doing my masters, I was interested in the woman's role in society and the single mother in a village in those days, and I started researching this and looking into my grandmother's life, and by doing it I became really interested in the invasion because I think for me the idea of trauma and what happens to us in the face of death or in the face of loss, I think that it's here that characters are tested, that people are tested, that we're tested as human beings.
And some of them become stronger,
yes,
as we see through the plot.
Yeah, and they do become stronger because I believe that in the face of death these people are forced to face their past. And I think as humans, we're not just who we are now, we are who we were in the past and we are who we're going to be. You know, it sort of all comes together. And it's the characters that had the courage to look into their past and their family's past that were actually the ones that were able to move forward. And at the time that I was writing the novel, because you said, is there anything autobiographical? You know, there was the stuff about my own family's past. But as I was writing the novel, I had to deal with my own emotional things as well because my mum became ill at the time that I started to write the novel. She had cancer and she actually passed away when I was a quarter way through the story.
So she didn't have the chance to read it finished.
And she was the kind of woman that, you know, I taught in a secondary school and I wanted to leave that profession to write. And everyone else said, you're mad, you know, you've got this really good job, what are you going to leave it for? And my mum was the only one that said, no, you have to follow your dreams. If it's in your heart to write.
It's a matter of fulfillment after all.
Yeah, absolutely. And she always knew that I liked writing. So I started it and quarter way through she died. And I was writing about loss, about somebody else's loss,
while you were experiencing it.
My own loss, and I was grieving for my mum, So I was able to use those emotions as well. I mean, often as writers, we write about things that we haven't experienced, and we try to put ourselves there and write from those characters' perspectives. But in this case, I had also lost something, and my mum was one of my best friends. So that feeling of devastation, I mean, your life falls apart at that point. It really does, because you've known this person all your life, you've loved them all your life, and suddenly they're not there. And ironically, I was writing about similar things. Gokki loses her son, Marulla loses her mother.
It's very clear that you focus on the human element in the Turkish invasion in Cyprus, and you're not using any political aspects, just the human factor.
Yeah, definitely, because I wasn't interested in politics. I'm interested in what it means to be human. Who are we? What happens to us when we lose something, when we suffer in our lives? And I think for me, this is a book for anyone that's lost somebody. And you know, even in England, with it coming out, you know, on the one hand, they learn more about Cyprus, and they learn more about a country that actually they've had very close ties with over, you know, history. But I think anyone can relate to it, because it's not just a microcosm of the world in the sense that war happens everywhere, but I think that it's underneath it all, it's just a book about loss and being human and being courageous, and what happens to us when we can face our past, when we've got that courage to face what we've lost.
A particularly strong phrase that I remember from your book is during the invasion, where one of your main characters starts feeling hate about people she used to hang out with every day. They used to be her friends, her neighbors, and she says, I feel hate, but why is that I feel hate for my friends and neighbors? What has changed in me?
Yeah.
This is really a matter of what happened these days between the two communities.
Yes, because, you know, her son is half Turkish, and it's those people that have killed him, which for me, that was very, you know, I wanted that to be a very symbolic element in the story, because it's somebody from the outside that's come in and ripped this island in two, but she feels hate for the very people that she loved, because she associates them with the people that were killed. And I think that when we suffer something that devastating, it changes us as a person, and it breaks down what we know about ourselves as well.
How was the book received in Cyprus?
We had some wonderful presentations. We had one in Larnaca, Mavromadi's bookshop, which went really well. Last night we were in Limassol at Giriagos bookshop, and tonight, which is a Thursday night, we're going to be at Barga bookstore. And last night was absolutely packed with people, and I had such a wonderful response. It's just been a really great experience, and I've got to meet some really interesting people, and you know, I did a lot of research for this, but by being here, it's also given me the opportunity to meet other people that have been affected by this war, that have related to the book in different ways.
Have you met any readers that have already read and finished the book?
I have, yeah.
What was their impressions from it?
Well, they seem to have reacted very emotionally to the book. They said to me that it touched them, and they could relate to the feelings of pain and the feelings of love, because it's a book about hope as well. And they could relate to this whether they had lived through the invasion or not. And I especially even had this reaction in England with people that obviously don't have the connection with Cyprus. And I had a wonderful review from the Sunday Telegraph. So the response has been excellent so far, and I'm really pleased.
Do novels write history or teach about history in their own way of little stories? Does it make more interesting the whole picture of our history?
I think it's a combination of both, because I think that through literature you can learn about history in a different way to what you're going to learn it when you read a history book. In a history book you're going to learn the facts, and in a piece of literature, in a fictional story, the facts might be changed and the characters will be fictional, but you'll get the emotion that's there. The emotion will be real. Whereas in a historical book, the facts might be real.
It's like history revived, actually.
Yeah, in an emotional way. And I did a lot of research, and I have used some very historical things as well. For example, the radio programme that Richard listens to in England, which is a news bulletin about the invasion, was a real bulletin taken from BBC News, and I inserted it into the novel because I wanted to have that very real element to it as well. But the rest of it came from my research, but instead of using the actual stories, I allowed those stories to become a part of me, to become a part of my own emotions, so that they could come out in a different way. I could create them in a different way.
I see. It's your first novel, but you're already nominated for a very important literature prize.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How do you feel for being nominated for Best First Novel?
Oh, absolutely wonderful, because when you're writing the book, you don't know what's going to happen with it. And I think I feel really grateful that I've been nominated for this, especially the fact that a lot of people came up to me that said, I want to learn more about Cyprus now. People in England, people in Edinburgh that I spoke to. And I think it was a very rewarding experience knowing that my writing had been acknowledged.
That means you have to continue and give us more novels.
Oh, I'd
with
love
the
to.
Same strong feel,
Yeah.
the same emotion, the same power of thought and of expression.
Thank you. Well, I have started something.
Tell us about it.
Well, this time it's not set in Cyprus, it's actually set in London. It's set in the middle of London in a place called Inner Temple. And it's about identity and who we are. And it's about the masks we put on in life, and sometimes the bubble that we live in without realising, and whether the path we make for ourselves is the path we made, or the path that somebody else made for us, or in fact our past made for us.
So it's about decisions.
Decisions, life, past and the present, how they come together.
And how we can break free from them.
Yes, because I think with this book there was hope, and even now with the new book that I've started, the message I want at the end is one of hope again.
We will be waiting for your second novel, the second novel from Christy Lefteris, because the first one was read with so much excitement. So we have to have a second one.
I'll keep writing.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks very much.